next storyteller, you may have heard on Risk. He is a Moth Grand Slam winner and the host of his own storytelling series, The Day I Should Have. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Danny Artese.
So fifth grade was a year of big change for me. New town, new school, new friends, except that only the first two of those were a given because I had gone to the same school before since preschool, and we just were all friends. And so I didn't know how to make friends. And I found out how difficult it was going to be when during the first week of school, we had our community circle, which you might know as show and tell, but this was in Southern California, and we called it community circle, where we brought in objects to introduce ourselves to the room. And every single other boy in the class brought cleats and mitts and trophies. And it was not that I was without records of my athletic achievement. No, I had them. It's just that mine were in the form of participation ribbons from figure skating class. So in the absence of friends, I escaped into books, and I read a lot of R.L. Stine, and I was a mature reader, and so I read Fear Street rather than Goosebumps, which was for the children. Thank you. And my favorite books, though, my absolute favorite, were Sweet Valley High. Now, if you're not familiar, Sweet Valley High follows the adventures and misadventures of identical twins, Elizabeth, the good girl, and Jessica, the bad girl, Wakefield, who are perfect size 6 with golden blonde hair, aquamarine eyes, the color of the Pacific, in a picture-perfect Southern California town. And as a blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid in a beautiful Southern California town, I took this soap opera series to be a documentary that was getting me prepared for high school, which was only one short middle school span away. And so every recess and every lunch, I was reading Sweet Valley High. And it probably did not help the case for being a friend of mine that if anyone ever did make the overture of coming up to me and asking, "Oh, what are you reading?" my answer was always, "A book." And right back into Sweet Valley. But somehow, by the end of the school year, I did manage to make some friends. I think it was really just through forced birthday party invitations and group projects, but nonetheless, a group of friends, they were all girls. And also, by the end of the school year, I made my first girlfriend. That was an accomplishment. We had bonded over the fact that one day at recess, we discovered that we both considered the best breakfast food to be French toast, which when you're 10 years old is really all it takes. And so we did all of the things that young couples in love do. We went to Sandra Bullock rom-coms, and we compared the flavors of the different colored crayons at Red Robin Restaurant. It was going very well, even though there may have been a couple signs that I was not meant to have a girlfriend, figure skating and Sweet Valley High possibly being two of them. But the most glaring sign was Kevin. And Kevin was also a new kid with me at school that year. And you know, sometimes the new kids get grouped together. You're introduced as a unit, which had a nice ring to it. And Kevin just had these like eternally pink cheeks that just always looked like he came in out of the cold, but it was Southern California, so for us the cold was like 73 degrees, so it wasn't that. And I remember thinking very specifically at the time that if I was a girl, I would think Kevin was cute. But, you know, when you're 10 years old and you haven't learned that that's an option yet, there's a big difference between thinking a boy is cute and identifying a circumstance under which you might. And so as the school year came to an end, Shannon and my relationship was just beginning, and to send us off to middle school in style, the parent-teacher organization put together an auction where they had solicited donations of like pop culture and sports memorabilia that we could bid on. But we were not going to be bidding with actual money. No. We had earned $1 for every page of recreational reading we had done over the school year. And so the first 8 months of the year that I spent without a friend actually ended up being very beneficial, and overnight I was the richest kid in school. In fact, it very closely mirrored the plot of Sweet Valley High number 16, Rags to Riches. And so prior to this auction, we all had gotten a little pamphlet reviewing what the items that would be up for bid were so we could make our choices of where we wanted to spend our money. And so there were a couple little items that I wanted to get, and there was one big item that was from a very popular television show that I knew would be extremely sought after, and so I set aside the bulk of my money for that because having the most money in school meant that it was going to be mine for the taking if I budgeted right. But I have to tell you something about Shannon. Yeah, Shannon was, I don't know how to say this, not quite the intellectual that I was, and had not read nearly as much, if any, of the 144 Sweet Valley High books, meaning that she didn't have as much money as I did, far from it, and she had an item that she really wanted, which was a lithograph of Garfield signed by Jim Davis, and asked if I could pitch in a few dollars to help if hers was not sufficient, and I, being a good boyfriend, of course, agreed. And so the day of the auction, lest you worry that there would be kids that maybe didn't do any reading, everybody got a copy of Boyz II Men's Cooley High Harmony CD as a consolation prize for showing up. And then the bidding began, and there were things I didn't want, didn't care, and then up came the Jelly Belly calculator with buttons shaped like jelly beans, the Joan Baez illustrated children's biography, mine for the taking. And then up came the Garfield lithograph, and the bidding was frenzied. It did not take long for Shannon to be out of the running to win this item, and so she asked if I could pick up from there, and of course I was a good boyfriend, so I agreed, and I was bidding, and the bidding started getting more intense, and bids were going up like $100 at a time. I mean, we were talking like an entire Sweet Valley High book. And then, before long, it was down to me and Mike Kazanji, who had the second most money in school. And so we're bidding $100 up, $150 up, $200 up, and it doesn't take long for me to hit the point that I have budgeted to help Shannon out. But she looks at me with little Odie eyes, and she says, you know, Danny, I think he's going to drop out soon. Like, can you please keep going? And to be fair, it had cost a little bit less to get that Joan Baez illustrated biography than I had budgeted, so I had a few extra dollars, so I agreed and continued bidding. Going once. I mean, I really wanted this item that I had set aside the bulk of my money for, but this was just a material possession. And sitting to my side was a person, a human being, my girlfriend, and that had to count for something. Going twice. But you know, I was the one who had done the reading. I had earned the money. It wasn't really my fault that she had not explored the world of Enid Rollins and Bruce Patman and then Todd Wilkins and then Jeffrey French, but you know, only for a little while until Todd Wilkins came back from Vermont. It wasn't her fault. Going 3 times, sold. In perhaps the greatest sign that I was not meant to have a girlfriend, or at least that girlfriend, to Mike Kazanji. And Shannon was devastated. I had let her down. But I didn't really have a lot of time to worry about it because then the item that I wanted was up for bid, and I had to really refocus. And now, with the greatest threat knocked out because he just spent so much money in Garfield, like, this was mine for the taking. I wanted everybody to know it. So I started in hot with the first bid, and then somebody followed up right after me, and then, well, then I got it. Because apparently I had slightly overestimated the popularity of this particular television show with the 10-year-old set. So in 2 bids, I had won my most sought-after item, which was an 8x10 glossy black and white photograph, autographed by the entire cast of the Golden Girls. Spin-off Empty Nest. Which kind of picked up with their neighbors, but did still star Estelle Getty as Sophia Petrillo, though now in a neighbor role rather than the beloved curmudgeonly Sicilian matriarch. And so after after the school year ended, Shannon and I kept up a long-distance relationship for a valiant amount of time. But 2 weeks in, she met a boy at summer camp, and we broke up. And turned out that I started paying a little bit closer attention to some of those signs. And Shannon was not only my first girlfriend, but also my last girlfriend, though I will always have my golden girl. Thank you.